Commander Marcus Chen stood before the massive viewing window of the Galactic Empire's orbital station, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath him. After 5 years of service to the Krellian Empire, he had earned their highest military honor. But the reward ceremony scheduled for today filled him with unease rather than pride. The doors to the ceremonial hall hissed open behind him. "Commander Chen," a melodious voice called. He turned to face Administrator Vex Hall, the tall, blue-skinned Krellian official who oversaw human integration into the Empire. Her 4 arms moved in the graceful pattern that signaled respect among her people. "Administrator," Marcus nodded. "You wanted to see me before the ceremony?" "Indeed." Her large violet eyes studied him carefully. "You have proven yourself exceptional among your species. The Empire wishes to ensure your bloodline continues. Strong warriors breed strong offspring." Marcus kept his expression neutral, though his stomach tightened. He had heard whispers about the Empire's breeding programs, but had hoped they wouldn't apply to humans. "I appreciate the Empire's concern for my future," he said diplomatically. "Come," Vex Hall gestured toward the ceremony hall. "The High Council awaits." The hall was packed with representatives from dozens of species that comprised the Galactic Empire. Krellians, with their blue skin and multiple arms, stood alongside the reptilian saurians, the crystalline luminants, and many others. At the center of it all, the High Council sat on elevated platforms, their ancient eyes watching everything. Marcus walked down the central aisle, his military boots clicking against the polished floor. He had saved an entire colony from pirates, led successful campaigns against the Empire's enemies, and earned the respect of species that had conquered the stars when humanity was still learning to make fire. Yet now, he felt like a child being called before the principal. High Counselor Zethmar, a being so old his scales had turned white, spoke in the Empire's common tongue. "Commander Marcus Chen of Earth, you have served with distinction. The Empire rewards such service." He gestured with one claw, and a door opened at the side of the hall. A young woman entered, and Marcus felt his breath catch. She was human, with dark hair that fell to her shoulders and green eyes that darted nervously around the room. She wore a simple white dress that marked her as property of the Empire. Most striking were the silver bands around her wrists, slave markers. "This is Ava," the High Counselor continued, "selected from the finest genetic stock of your species. She has been educated in all necessary duties and will serve as your breeding partner. Together, you will produce offspring to strengthen humanity's contribution to the Empire." Ava's eyes met Marcus's for just a moment before dropping to the floor. In that brief glance, he saw fear, resignation, and something else, a spark of defiance quickly hidden. The crowd murmured approval. This was standard practice throughout the Empire. Superior individuals were paired to produce superior offspring. It was logical, efficient, and had worked for thousands of years. But Marcus had not fought for the Empire to become part of their breeding program. More importantly, he could not accept a human being as a reward, no matter how the Empire dressed it up. "High Counselor," Marcus said, his voice carrying across the hall, "I am honored by the Empire's generosity." He paused, choosing his words carefully. In the Empire, direct refusal of a gift was a grave insult. "May I speak with Ava privately before accepting this great honor? Human customs require certain protocols." The counselors conferred among themselves. Finally, Zethmar nodded. "1 hour, Commander. Then you will accept your reward and fulfill your duty to the Empire." A guard escorted Marcus and Ava to a small antechamber. As soon as the door closed, Ava's carefully maintained posture crumbled. She sank into a chair, her hands shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know this isn't what you wanted. They told me about you, the hero commander who saved all those people. You deserve better than this." Marcus knelt beside her chair, keeping his distance to avoid frightening her further. "Hey, look at me." When she raised her eyes, he continued, "You have nothing to apologize for. Tell me about yourself. The real you, not whatever they programmed you to say." Ava studied his face, searching for deception. Finding none, she spoke quietly. "I was a xenobiologist on Mars colony. I was studying alien plant adaptation when the Empire's recruitment ships came. They said I had superior genetic markers and would serve the Empire through the breeding program. That was 3 years ago." 3 years. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. "You've been a slave for 3 years?" "The Empire doesn't call it slavery," Ava said bitterly. "We're genetic assets. They trained us in languages, culture, child-rearing techniques of various species. Everything needed to be proper breeding partners." Her voice cracked. "My sister was in the program, too. She was assigned to a Saurian commander last year. Humans and Saurians aren't genetically compatible, but the Empire doesn't care. She's still required to try." Marcus stood and paced the small room. Everything about this was wrong. He had joined the Empire's military to protect Earth, to ensure humanity had a voice among the stars. But at what cost? "What happens if I refuse the gift?" he asked. Ava paled. "You can't. No one refuses the High Council. And if you did..." "I've seen what happens to rejected assets. We're sent to the mining colonies or worse. At least with you, I'd stay human. I'd stay on a ship with artificial sunlight and real food." "So I'm the lesser evil," Marcus said grimly. "You're human," Ava replied simply. "That has to count for something." Marcus made his decision. "Ava, I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" She looked at him uncertainly. "What choice do I have?" "That's just it. You do have a choice. I'm going to accept the Empire's gift, but things are going to be different than they expect. I won't be your owner and you won't be my slave. We'll figure out the rest as we go." "The Empire monitors all breeding pairs," Ava warned. "They'll expect results. Let me worry about the Empire. Right now, I need to know, do you trust me?" Ava was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I don't know why, but yes, I trust you." Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile he'd had in months. "Good. Now, let's go shock the High Council." They returned to the ceremony hall, where the crowd waited expectantly. Marcus stood tall, his military bearing perfect. "High Counselor, I accept the Empire's generous gift. Ava will join me on my ship, the Defiance." The crowd erupted in applause. Another successful pairing, another step toward a stronger empire. Vexahal approached them, her 4 hands weaving patterns of approval. "Excellent, Commander. The Empire expects great things from your union. Your first offspring report is due in 1 year." "Understood," Marcus said, though he had no intention of filing any such report. As they left the ceremony, Ava whispered, "The Defiance? Really?" "I didn't name it," Marcus replied, "but it seems appropriate now, doesn't it?" Over the following days, Marcus introduced Ava to his ship and crew. The Defiance was a small patrol vessel with a mixed crew of humans and allied species. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Sarah Park, pulled him aside on the second day. "Sir, with respect, what are you doing? The whole ship knows you're not treating her like a breeding partner. You gave her officers' quarters, full computer access, even added her to the duty roster as science advisor." "Is there a problem with my command decisions, Lieutenant?" Marcus asked mildly. Sarah sighed. "No, sir. Just be careful. The Empire has eyes everywhere." Marcus knew she was right, but watching Ava slowly come alive over those first weeks reinforced his decision. She threw herself into studying the ship's systems, analyzing star charts, and even improving their sensor arrays with modifications from her xenobiology research. One evening, Marcus found her in the observation lounge, staring out at the stars. Credit for your thoughts? I was just thinking how different it all looks from this side of the viewport, she said. For 3 years, I watched stars through prison transparastile. Now, she trailed off. Now you're free, Marcus finished. Am I? She turned to face him. The Empire still considers me property. These bands, she raised her wrists, mark me as a slave to anyone we meet, and we both know what they expect from us. Marcus had been thinking about this problem for days. What if we could remove them? Ava shook her head. They're bio-locked. Any attempt to remove them triggers an alarm to Empire security. We'd have patrol ships on us within hours. Then we need to be somewhere they can't follow, Marcus said quietly. Ava's eyes widened. You're talking about running, desertion. They'll hunt us down. Maybe. Or maybe we find others who feel the same way. I've been getting encrypted messages from other human commanders. I'm not the only one who received a breeding gift recently, and I'm not the only one who finds it abhorrent. A rebellion? Ava breathed. Against the Galactic Empire? Not a rebellion, Marcus corrected. A statement. That humans are not property. That we won't accept slavery no matter what they call it. That our genetic diversity is ours to control, not theirs to manage. Ava was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, How many others? 7 confirmed so far. More considering it. If we move together, if we're smart about it, we might have a chance. And if we fail, Marcus met her eyes steadily. Then at least we failed as free humans, not as compliant slaves. A smile, the first real smile he'd seen from her, crossed Ava's face. When do we start? That night, Marcus began reaching out to his network. Commander Torres had been given a breeding gift 2 months ago, a young engineer named Maya. Commander Okonkwo received his gift just last week. One by one, they shared their disgust with the practice and their desire to protect the humans who had been enslaved. The plan formed slowly. They would need a safe haven beyond the Empire's reach. They would need supplies, allies among the non-human species who might sympathize, and most importantly, they would need a way to remove the bio-locked slave bands. Ava proved invaluable in the planning. Her scientific background led her to study the band's construction, searching for weaknesses. Marcus used his military contacts to identify potential allies and locate uncharted systems where they might hide. 3 weeks after the ceremony, everything changed. Marcus was on the bridge when the communication system chimed with a priority message from Empire Command. His blood ran cold as he read it. Fertility assessment team will arrive in 48 hours to evaluate breeding pair Chen Ava. Compliance is mandatory. Sarah read the message over his shoulder. Sir, if they examine her and find... I know, Marcus cut her off. They would find that Ava had been given contraceptive implants, a direct violation of the breeding protocol. The punishment would be severe for both of them. Marcus turned to his bridge crew. 2 humans, 1 Altarian who owed him a life debt, and surprisingly, 1 Krellian who had served with him for years. I'm about to ask you all to make a choice, he said. In 48 hours, Empire assessors will arrive. They'll discover that I've violated the breeding protocols. Ava and I will be arrested, probably separated, and definitely punished. That's if we're here when they arrive. The Krellian, Sub-Commander Dexville, was the first to speak. You plan to run. I plan to be free, Marcus corrected. Any who wish to leave can take the shuttle. No judgment, no hard feelings, but decide now. One by one, his bridge crew stood at their posts. Even Dexville remained, his 4 arms crossed. The Empire's breeding programs are distasteful, the Krellian admitted. My own sister was forced into one. I will stand with you, Commander. Marcus felt a surge of hope. Sarah, send encrypted messages to the others. Tell them it's time. Dexville, can you disable our tracking beacon without triggering alarms? Give me 2 hours, the Krellian promised. Marcus headed to find Ava. She was in the science lab, bent over her workstation. When he told her about the message, she nodded grimly. "I've been expecting this. The good news is, I think I've found a weakness in the bands. The bad news is, we need equipment that's only available on Krellian manufacturing stations." "Then we'll get it," Marcus said firmly. "One way or another, those bands are coming off." The next 47 hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Supplies were quietly loaded, navigation systems were reprogrammed with false destinations, and encrypted messages flew between the small network of sympathetic commanders. With 1 hour until the assessor's arrival, 8 human vessels broke from their assigned patrol routes simultaneously. The Defiance led the way, jumping to hyperspace before the Empire could react. As the stars streaked past the viewports, Ava stood beside Marcus on the bridge. "So what now?" she asked. "Now we find out if freedom is worth fighting for," Marcus replied. "And we show the Empire that humans are not property to be bred and controlled." In the depths of space, 8 ships carrying freed slaves and rebellious commanders charted a course for the unknown. Behind them, the Galactic Empire stirred like a sleeping giant beginning to wake. But ahead lay possibility, hope, and most importantly, freedom. The abandoned mining station drifted in the shadow of a dead planet, its hulking frame scarred by centuries of asteroid impacts. To most travelers, it was space debris. To Marcus and his growing fleet of rebels, it was sanctuary. 3 months had passed since their escape from the Empire. 8 ships had become 12, then 20, as word spread through encrypted channels about commanders who freed their assigned breeding slaves. The station, which they'd named Haven, now housed over 200 humans who refused to accept the Empire's control over their bodies and lives. Marcus stood in what used to be the station's control center, now converted into a tactical command post. Holographic displays showed the positions of Empire patrol ships, supply routes, and potential safe zones. Ava worked beside him, her fingers dancing over controls as she analyzed intercepted communications. "They're getting smarter," she said, highlighting a patrol pattern. "Look at this. They're using randomized search grids now, not predictable routes. Someone in Empire Command finally started thinking." "How long before they find us?" Marcus asked. "At current search efficiency?" Ava calculated quickly. 6 weeks, maybe 8 if we're lucky. Then we need to move again." Marcus rubbed his temples. The constant running was wearing on everyone. They needed a permanent solution, not just another temporary hiding spot. The door chimed and Sarah Park entered with 2 other commanders. Maria Torres looked exhausted, her usually pristine uniform wrinkled from days without sleep. James Okonkwo seemed energized despite their situation, his eyes bright with purpose. "We've got a problem," Sarah announced. 3 more ships want to join us, but one claims to have an Empire spy aboard. They're requesting help identifying the infiltrator before they make the jump to our coordinates." Marcus and Ava exchanged glances. They'd suspected the Empire would try infiltration eventually. The breeding program was too valuable to abandon without a fight. "I'll handle it," Ava said. "I've been working on a bioscanner that can detect the specific neural implants the Empire uses for deep cover agents. Give me their crew manifest in 2 hours." As she left, Maria collapsed into a chair. "Marcus, we can't keep this up. Half my people are showing signs of extended stress. We're running low on medical supplies, food stores are depleting faster than we can raid for more. And the children?" "Children?" Marcus interrupted. 7 so far, James said. "Turns out some of the breeding pairs had already complied with Empire demands before joining us. We have pregnant women and newborns on these ships. What kind of life are we offering them? Running forever?" Marcus knew they were right. Haven was meant to be temporary, but they'd been forced to stay longer than planned. Every raid for supplies risked exposure. Every day brought the Empire closer to finding them. "What about the outer reaches?" Sarah suggested. Beyond Empire space, wild territory. Full of pirates, hostile species, and worse, Maria countered. At least with the Empire, we knew the rules. The rules made us slaves, Marcus said firmly. I won't go back to that. None of us will. An alarm suddenly blared through the station. Marcus rushed to the communication panel as Dexville's voice crackled through. Commander, we have incoming. 3 Empire dreadnoughts just dropped out of hyperspace. They're not responding to false transponder codes. Battle stations, Marcus ordered. Prepare for evacuation. How did they find us? Unknown, Dexville replied. But they're launching fighters. The command center erupted into controlled chaos. Officers rushed to their posts, coordinating the evacuation of non-combatants from the station. Marcus felt the familiar calm of battle settling over him, even as his mind raced through options. Ava burst through the door. It's a trap! The 3 ships that wanted to join us, they're Empire decoys. The spy story was to keep us focused on them while the real fleet moved in. Clever, Marcus admitted grimly. Can we jump? Negative, Sarah reported. They're projecting interdiction fields. We're stuck here until those dreadnoughts are disabled. Marcus made a quick decision. Evacuate all civilians to the cargo haulers. Combat ships form up for assault pattern Delta. We punch a hole through their line and run. That's suicide, Maria protested. 3 dreadnoughts against our patrol vessels? Not if we're smart about it. Marcus turned to Ava. Remember that sensor modification you made? Can you reverse it, create ghost signatures? Ava's eyes lit up with understanding. Make them think we have more ships than we do? Give me 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes felt like hours. Empire fighters swarmed toward the station, while the rebel ships scrambled to form defensive positions. The dreadnoughts held back, confident in their overwhelming firepower. Then Ava worked her magic. Suddenly, the Empire's sensors showed not 20 rebel ships, but 60. Ghost signatures appeared throughout the battle space, indistinguishable from real vessels. Now, Marcus commanded. The rebel fleet struck with desperate fury. Real ships mixed with sensor ghosts, making it impossible for the Empire to focus their fire effectively. The Defiance led the charge, its upgraded weapons courtesy of liberated Empire technology punching above its weight class. For a moment, it seemed like the plan might work. The Empire fighters scattered, chasing ghosts. One dreadnought took significant damage from concentrated rebel fire. A gap opened in their formation. Then the Empire adapted. The lead dreadnought launched a wave of specialized probes that cut through Ava's deception. Ghost signatures winked out one by one. They're zeroing in on real targets, Sarah warned. We've lost 2 ships already. Marcus gripped his command chair. They were outgunned and outnumbered. But surrender meant slavery for Ava and the others, breeding programs and genetic manipulation. Death was preferable. Sir, Dexville spoke up, I'm detecting an anomaly. Large mass approaching from behind the Empire fleet. More Empire ships? Marcus asked. Negative. Configuration unknown. They're not broadcasting any identification. The view screen flickered, then resolved to show massive vessels emerging from hyperspace. But these weren't the sleek, uniform designs of Empire craft. These ships were wild amalgamations of technology, bristling with weapons from a dozen different species. Pirates, Maria breathed. The Outer Reach Coalition. Marcus had heard whispers of the coalition. Pirates, exiles, and rebels who carved out an existence beyond Empire control. They were said to be ruthless, taking what they needed to survive. But right now, they were attacking the Empire dreadnoughts. Incoming transmission, the communication officer announced. The screen filled with the image of a scarred human woman, her left eye replaced with a cybernetic implant. She grinned fiercely. This is Captain Regina Voss of the coalition ship Freedom's Price. Heard you folks were having Empire troubles. Thought we'd even the odds. Why help us? Marcus asked. Because anyone who makes the Empire bleed is a friend of ours. Plus, her grin widened, we've been tracking you for weeks. You've liberated 3 supply convoys we were planning to hit. Figure you owe us. We can discuss payment after we deal with these dreadnoughts. Marcus didn't hesitate. Agreed. Sending you tactical data now. The battle transformed from desperate last stand to coordinated assault. Coalition ships struck with practiced precision, their eclectic weapons tearing into Empire shields. The rebels rallied, adding their firepower to the assault. Within 20 minutes, one dreadnought was crippled, another retreating. The third fought on until a coalition boarding party took its bridge. Empire fighters scattered, jumping to hyperspace when their capital ships fell. As quickly as it began, the battle ended. Haven was scarred, but intact. The rebel fleet had lost 3 ships but saved 17, and they had new, dangerous allies. Captain Voss transported aboard the Defiance for negotiations. Up close, she was even more imposing. 2 meters tall, muscles enhanced with visible cybernetics, weapons openly displayed. But her eyes, the human one at least, showed intelligence and calculation. So, she said, settling into the conference room chair like a throne, you're the famous Marcus Chen, the commander who said no to the Empire's generosity. I prefer the commander who said yes to freedom, Marcus replied. Voss laughed. Pretty words, but freedom needs more than speeches. It needs teeth. It needs bases. It needs resources. She leaned forward. Join the coalition. We've got all that and more. At what cost? Ava asked. She'd joined them for the negotiation, no longer hiding her status. Voss studied her, noting the removed slave bands. Ava had finally succeeded in disabling them during the chaos of evacuation. Smart modification work. We could use someone with your skills. She turned back to Marcus. The cost is simple. You contribute to coalition defense. You share technology and resources. You follow coalition law in coalition space. In exchange, you get protection, trade rights, and a place to call home. Coalition law, Marcus repeated, which includes slavery from what I've heard. Economic servitude, Voss corrected. Debts must be paid, but we don't breed people like cattle. We don't slave-ban children. Everyone has a chance to earn their freedom through service. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than the Empire. Marcus looked at his fellow commanders, saw their exhaustion and hope warring on their faces. We need to discuss this, he said. Take your time, Voss stood, but not too much. The Empire will send a proper fleet once they realize what happened here. You need to be gone before they arrive. She paused at the door. One more thing. The Coalition has other former Empire citizens, other humans who ran rather than submit. You might find kindred spirits among us. After she left, the debate began. Some wanted to accept immediately, safety and stability after months of running. Others worried about trading one master for another. What do you think? Marcus asked Ava quietly while the others argued. She considered carefully. I think perfect freedom might not exist, but degrees of freedom do. With the Empire, I was property. With the Coalition, I'd be a person with rights, even if those rights come with obligations. She met his eyes. I think it's worth the risk. Over the following hours, they reached consensus. The Coalition offered the best chance for long-term survival and freedom. Marcus sent word to Captain Voss, accepting provisional membership pending full negotiations. The evacuation of Haven took 2 days. Everything useful was stripped from the station. Technology, supplies, even metal plating that could be repurposed. The rebel fleet formed up with their coalition escorts, ready for the journey to their new home. As the Defiance prepared to jump, Marcus stood on the bridge with his crew. They'd come so far from that ceremony where he'd been given a human being as property. They'd fought, bled, and lost friends. But they'd also found something worth fighting for. Sir, Ava approached him. Before we jump, there's something I need to tell you. Marcus turned, noting her serious expression. What is it? I've been monitoring Empire communications. They're not just angry about losing their breeding pairs. They're terrified. She handed him a data pad. Look at the birth rates in the core worlds. They're plummeting. The genetic diversity they hoarded through the breeding programs, it's creating stagnation. Meanwhile, human colonies with natural selection are thriving. Marcus studied the data. They're afraid we'll outpace them. More than that, other species are starting to question the breeding programs. The Altarians have already petitioned for reform. Our rebellion isn't just about us anymore. Then we keep fighting, Marcus decided. Not with weapons, but with lives lived freely. We show the galaxy that there's another way. The jump alarm sounded. Ahead lay Coalition space, dangerous, uncertain, but free. Behind them, the Empire struggled to understand how a few humans had sparked something larger than rebellion. As stars streaked past the viewports, Marcus felt Ava's hand slip into his. Not as slave to master, not as breeding pair, but as two free humans who'd chosen to stand together. Ready for whatever comes next? She asked. With you? Always. The Defiance jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew toward a new chapter of their fight for freedom. In the void they left behind, the abandoned station drifted silent, a monument to the moment when humanity chose freedom over security, dignity over comfort, and sparked a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. 2 years had transformed the ragged band of rebels into a thriving community. The coalition world of New Horizons stretched beneath alien suns, its 3 moons casting strange shadows across settlements built by human hands. Marcus stood on the balcony of the council building, watching children play in the streets below, children born free, who would never know the weight of slave bands. Lost in thought again? Ava joined him, carrying 2 cups of the local equivalent of coffee. The bitter brew had grown on them over the months. Just thinking how far we've come, Marcus replied, accepting the cup gratefully. Remember when we thought 20 ships were a fleet? Ava smiled. Now we have over 200, and that's just the humans. The Altarians officially joined last month. The Denari are considering it. She paused. The morning reports are in. You'll want to see this. They walked to the tactical center, a far cry from the improvised command post on Haven. Holographic displays showed the state of their growing alliance. Red markers indicated Empire positions, blue showed Coalition territory, and a spreading patch of green marked the free systems, worlds that had declared independence from the Empire's breeding programs. 17 systems now, Sarah Park reported. She'd been elected military coordinator for the human settlements. The Empire is pulling back from frontier territories to consolidate their core worlds. They're scared, James Okonkwo added from his position as intelligence chief. Our sources say the High Council is in chaos. Half want to crush us with overwhelming force. The other half argue they can't afford to, not with their birth rates crashing and other species questioning their authority. Marcus studied the map. 2 years of careful work had built this, not through military conquest, but through example. Every free human thriving outside the breeding program proved the Empire's lies. Every mixed couple choosing their own partners, every child born to love rather than genetic calculation, chipped away at the Empire's foundation. There's more, Ava said quietly. We received a transmission this morning, from Earth. The room fell silent. Earth remained firmly under Empire control, its population subject to the breeding programs. Contact from the homeworld was rare and dangerous. Show me, Marcus ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a familiar face. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, Marcus's sister, whom he hadn't seen in 3 years. She looked older, tired, but her eyes burned with determination. Marcus, I hope this reaches you. The stories of your rebellion have spread further than you know. Even here, in the heart of Empire control, People whisper about the commander who chose freedom over comfort. She paused, glancing off-screen nervously. I'm transmitting from the Geneva Research Center. What I'm about to tell you could change everything. The image shifted to display genetic data. The Empire's breeding program isn't just failing, it's destroying them. Their obsession with perfect genetic combinations has created a bottleneck. Their children are brilliant but fragile. Autoimmune diseases are skyrocketing. Mental instability is increasing with each generation. Meanwhile, Elizabeth continued, free human populations show increasing diversity, adaptability, and hybrid vigor. We're not just surviving without their program, we're thriving. The Empire knows this. Some on the High Council want to abandon the breeding programs entirely, but the hardliners refuse. There's going to be a vote, she said urgently. In 1 month, the High Council will decide whether to continue mandatory breeding programs or allow species self-determination. Marcus, they need to see proof that freedom works. Not just military resistance, but flourishing communities. Can you... The transmission cut to static. They found her, Ava said softly. The transmission was cut from their end. Marcus's hands clenched. His sister had risked everything to send that message. Can we verify this, about the council vote? Already on it, James said, his fingers flying over his console. Our Krellian contacts confirm it. The Empire is fracturing. Progressive factions led by younger counselors against traditionalists. The vote will be close. Then we need to tip the scales, Marcus decided. Not with weapons, but with truth. Show them what we've built here. Over the following days, a plan took shape. They would broadcast a documentary to every world in Empire space, showing life in the free systems. The preparation was intense, gathering footage of thriving communities, interviewing couples who'd chosen each other freely, documenting children growing up without genetic predetermination. Ava coordinated the technical aspects, working with coalition hackers to prepare for the largest pirate broadcast in galactic history. But she seemed distracted, often lost in thought. What's troubling you? Marcus asked one evening, finding her alone in their shared quarters. They'd moved in together 6 months ago, their relationship evolving naturally from partnership to something deeper. I've been thinking about your sister's message, Ava said, about proving freedom works. Marcus, we need to talk about us. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. What about us? The Empire paired us expecting breeding. We've been together 2 years and we haven't... we've been careful to prevent... She took a breath. I don't want children because the Empire expected it. But I also don't want to avoid them just to spite the Empire. Does that make sense? Marcus sat beside her, taking her hands. It makes perfect sense. And you're right. We've been so focused on rejecting their plan that we never made our own. So what do we want? Ava asked. Not as symbols of rebellion, not as former breeding pairs, but as Marcus and Ava. They talked through the night, honestly discussing their fears and hopes. By morning, they'd reached a decision that was entirely their own. The day of the broadcast arrived with tension thick in the air. Coalition ships took position to protect the transmission nodes. The Empire had surely detected their preparations, but so far no fleet had arrived to stop them. Marcus stood before the main camera, Ava beside him. Around them, representatives of every species that had joined the free systems. The red light blinked on. Citizens of the Galactic Empire, Marcus began. 2 years ago, I was given a human being as property. The Empire expected me to use her for breeding, to produce offspring according to their genetic designs. I refused. The camera panned to Ava. I was that gift, she said. Trained from childhood to be a perfect breeding partner, my life planned by others. Today, I stand here as a scientist, a leader, and a free woman. The broadcast continued, showing images of New Horizon and other free colonies, humans and aliens working together by choice, children playing, their laughter needing no genetic optimization. Couples of every species combination, united by love rather than genetic compatibility charts. The Empire tells you that controlled breeding is necessary for survival, Marcus continued. We're living proof that's a lie. In 2 years, our population has grown by 30%, not through forced pairings, but through free choice. Our children are healthy, diverse, and strong. Testimonials followed. Former breeding slaves spoke of their new lives. Scientists presented data showing the genetic superiority of diverse populations over controlled breeding. Artists, engineers, teachers, all demonstrated that freedom enhanced rather than hindered human potential. Then came the moment that would ripple across the galaxy. Ava stepped forward, her hand resting on her stomach. The Empire paired Marcus and me, expecting us to breed on their schedule, to their specifications. We refused, but 6 months ago, we chose to start a family. Not because anyone commanded it, but because we wanted to. Our child will be born free, raised free, and will choose their own path. The impact was immediate and galaxy-wide. On 1,000 worlds, beings watched proof that the Empire's greatest lie, that freedom led to chaos, was false. The free systems weren't just surviving, they were flourishing. But the Empire's response came swiftly. As the broadcast ended, alarms screamed across New Horizon. A massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace, not the patrol ships or even dreadnoughts they'd faced before, but the Empire's core fleet. Hundreds of vessels, led by a ship that dwarfed all others. The Emperor's flagship, Dexville breathed. They've come to end this personally. Marcus felt a chill. They'd prepared for retaliation, but this was beyond their worst expectations. The coalition forces were outnumbered 10-1. Incoming transmission, the communication officer announced. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. The screen filled with the image of Emperor Zarkon himself. Ancient beyond measure, his scaled form still radiated power. But something in his eyes seemed different, tired, perhaps even uncertain. Marcus Chen, the Emperor spoke. Your broadcast has been received across the Empire. You have sown discord and rebellion. By all rights, I should reduce your world to cosmic dust. He paused. But I have not come to destroy. I have come to witness. Confusion rippled through the command center. The Emperor continued. The High Council is deadlocked on the breeding programs. As the deciding vote, I must see for myself what you have built. You have 3 hours to convince me that freedom serves the Empire's future better than control. The channel closed, leaving stunned silence. Then activity exploded as they prepared for the most important presentation of their lives. This wasn't about military might. It was about proving that humanity's way could work for everyone. 3 hours later, a shuttle bearing the Emperor's seal landed at New Horizon's main port. Emperor Zarkon emerged, accompanied by a small honor guard. Marcus, Ava, and other leaders waited to greet him. What followed was a tour unlike any diplomatic visit in Empire history. The Emperor, who had ruled for millennia, walked among free humans and aliens. He observed children in schools, choosing their own subjects to study. He visited hospitals where genetic diversity had eliminated diseases common in the Empire's controlled populations. He watched couples of different species working together, their partnerships chosen rather than assigned. In the research center, Ava presented her findings. Your Majesty, the breeding programs were designed to create perfection, but perfection is stagnation. Evolution requires diversity, adaptation, and yes, even chaos. Look at your own species. The royal bloodline has been pure for thousands of years. How many genetic conditions have emerged? How many potential innovations lost because genetics were prized over capability? The Emperor said nothing, but his ancient eyes showed he was listening. The final stop was the nursery. Dozens of children, including several born to former breeding pairs who had found love after freedom. The Emperor stood for a long time, watching them play. "You know," he said finally, his voice quiet, "I have 10,000 descendants, all bred according to genetic specifications, all brilliant, powerful, perfect." He turned to Marcus and Ava. "But I have never seen my children laugh like yours do. There is joy here. Something we lost in our pursuit of perfection." A child toddled up to the Emperor, a human girl with the fearlessness of the very young. She offered him a toy, a simple wooden ship. The Emperor, ruler of 1,000,000 worlds, knelt and accepted it solemnly. "The Council awaits my decision," he said, rising. "Tell me, Marcus Chen, if I end the breeding programs, what assurance do I have that chaos will not consume the Empire?" "You don't," Marcus answered honestly. "Freedom includes the freedom to fail, but it also includes the freedom to succeed beyond what any program could design. Your Majesty, the Empire has stagnated for centuries. You've achieved perfection at the cost of progress. We offer uncertainty, yes, but also unlimited potential." The Emperor looked at the toy ship in his hand, then at the children playing. "When I was young, and yes, even I was young once, we explored, we discovered, we grew. Now we merely maintain." He straightened. "I have decided." The return to his flagship was swift. Within hours, the Emperor's decree spread across the galaxy. The mandatory breeding programs were ended. Species would determine their own reproductive futures. The transition would be managed, support provided. But the age of genetic control was over. The Empire fleet withdrew without firing a shot. On New Horizon and across the free systems, celebrations erupted. But Marcus and Ava stood apart from the crowds, processing what had just happened. "We did it," Ava said, disbelief in her voice. "We actually did it." "We started it," Marcus corrected. "Now the real work begins. Freedom is harder than control. There will be chaos, mistakes, failures, and triumphs," Ava added. "Innovations and joy." She took his hand, placing it on her growing belly. "Our child will grow up in a galaxy where choice matters more than genetics, where love trumps programming, where human means more than just another species to be managed." Over the following months, the galaxy transformed. Some worlds struggled with their new freedom, but most flourished. The genetic bottlenecks that had plagued the Empire began to resolve. Innovation exploded as beings chose paths based on passion rather than predetermined roles. The free systems became a bridge between the Empire and the Coalition, showing that order and freedom could coexist. Marcus and Ava worked tirelessly to help worlds transition, their partnership a symbol of what could be achieved when people chose their own paths. On a quiet evening, as Ava nursed their newborn daughter, she asked, "Do you ever think about that ceremony, where they gave me to you like property?" "Sometimes," Marcus admitted. "It seems like a lifetime ago." "The Empire meant to strengthen their control by giving you a slave," Ava mused. "Instead, they gave you the chance to show that humans are more than resources to be managed. We're explorers, innovators, lovers, dreamers. We're chaos and creation combined. They gave me you," Marcus said simply, "and together, we changed the galaxy." Outside their window, 3 moons rose over New Horizon. In the streets, humans and aliens celebrated together, their children playing without concern for genetic percentages or breeding charts. The Empire's gift had indeed created a legacy, just not the one they'd intended. Freedom, it turned out, was the greatest gift of all, and once given, it spread like wildfire through the stars, transforming an empire built on control into a community built on choice. In her crib, their daughter slept peacefully, unaware that she was the first of a new generation. Children born not to fulfill genetic destinies, but to write their own stories among the stars. The Empire had sought perfection through control. Humanity had found something better through freedom, and in that choice, the galaxy found its future.